I'd like to have full disclosure before I start my presentation. I basically am here because I have made it a life's work to study Americans, and in particular, why Americans make the decisions they make and why they value what they value. And then more recently, I started thinking about it more as a kind of give back almost. I love this country. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not ashamed to say it loud, and I'm grateful to be able to say it. One of the reasons that's true, one of the reasons that's so is, as it has been pointed out, I am not a natural-born American. I was, in fact, born in Argentina. And when people say to me, why were you born in Argentina? My answer is rather interesting, because Adolf Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Because Joseph Stalin was head of the Soviet Union, and my father didn't want to die there. And because Juan Domingo Perón, a fascist, had a coup in 1946 in Argentina. So when I talk about America, I look at America and compare it to the really bad things that go on in the world at large. And I appreciate this country for what it is, what it represents, and what it's all about. And that's what the America Code is about. So what I want to tell you today is kind of an understanding of what makes Americans Americans, what makes America America, because I think we need to look at ourselves and not be anything but proud. I don't believe, by the way, in American exceptionalism as a definition that says better than others. We might be. We're certainly no better than some. We're certainly a hell of a lot better than others. But if you use the word American exceptionalism and understand it in the sense that it means we are not like others, then that I can give you a lot of supporting evidence for. We are not like the rest of the world, and we're going to talk about that momentarily. So what we're going to talk about today is a particular aspect of it. Have you ever wondered why, if we are all Americans, why is it that we don't always agree? Well, interestingly enough, it's built into the code. We are constructed as a nation not to disagree. One of the most wonderful things about America is that we never all agree. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So what we're going to talk about today is why half of America is coded to disagree with the other half. And essentially what we really need to understand is its definitions of terms. We use the word Americans. And I refer to that word as Americans as a presumptive, singular, prototypical designation. We're all Americans, right? Well, it would sometimes seem that we're not. But let's talk about the Americans that I mean when we talk about Americans. It's we the people. Kind of a nice embracing overall idea. So let's talk about what I call the markers that define the prototypical singular American. This is kind of like when somebody says Americans, we all think about the same general idea. I've broken that down into a number of markers because I believe that the America Code can be defined by these markers. First and foremost, Americans can be thought of as being disenfranchised, diligent optimists. We came here, we belong here, because wherever we started out, we didn't belong there. Nobody wanted us there. We did not feel comfortable there. We were disenfranchised. You don't believe that? Ask an Irishman. You know, it's an interesting thing about America. Most people don't realize that the single largest national ethnicity in America is Germans. 44 million Germans. There are half as many German Americans as there are Germans. The Irish are even better than that. There are 30 million American Irish, which is roughly 6 times the number of Irish. Interesting country. Why did we come here? Because we were disenfranchised. We did not have a place back there. And rather than complaining, we decided to do something about it. So that's the diligent part. And what we decided to do was to leave that lot behind, get away from the people who are not like us, and go somewhere else. And if you do that, my parents, by the way, crossed 4 countries, 3 continents, 10 years to get here. If you are not an optimist, you don't make that kind of journey. So number 1, we are disenfranchised, diligent optimists. Let's go on. What makes Americans Americans? The simple fact that we are addicted to individual liberty. We don't just use the words. We are addicted to it, and it's congenital. It's congenital. If you follow the line of Americans, there are Vikings in Americans, there are Germans in Americans, and the Vikings had a code. I bend a knee to no man. We're kind of the same way. We want individual liberty. We are addicted to it. You take that away from us and we shrivel and die. That's no accident that in the Constitution it said you have certain inalienable rights. Among these are the life, liberty. Oh, and interestingly enough, only the pursuit of happiness. You're not guaranteed happiness, just an opportunity to give it a shot. And that's fine because you have the right to individual liberty and what you do is up to you. Let's talk about another marker that makes Americans Americans. And it is in fact, oh, I'm sorry, I just went a little too far. Way too far. That's the one? Okay. Okay. The other part that makes Americans Americans is we do not, by nature, by government, or by politics, believe in consensus. Don't kid yourself. America is like herding goldfish. We don't believe in pulling together. We will associate to solve a particular problem and then immediately go back to despising each other and convince that the other fellow is an idiot. But then when we have a problem, we come back and pull and we do that. And we've done that since the very beginning. Now, as a student of world politics and the realities out there, I'm here to tell you that when everybody in the country agrees on exactly the same goal, things generally go wrong. Adolf Hitler had a very clear, very specific goal. A lot of Germans aligned behind that goal. You figure out what happened after that. Same thing happened in the Soviet Union. Same thing happened in lots of other countries. We are a gaggle. We don't pull together, and that's what's so wonderful. The Constitution was written to enshrine the lack of consensus. Why does it say separation of powers? Because we're not supposed to trust the government. We're not supposed to trust the government. That's why each side is supposed to be obstructionist to the others. That's built into our code. So we bend the knee to no man. We'll do what we have to. We'll fight a war, and then we immediately go our separate way. That's the way Americans are structured by genetic code. Okay, let's go on. What else makes Americans Americans? Is the simple fact that we are obsessed with possibility. Americans became Americans because something better was possible. Not guaranteed, not assured. I know that nowadays we spend an awful lot of time devoting ourselves to feasibility studies. Feasibility studies. You think about it. If Christopher Columbus had decided to wait for the feasibility studies, I don't know where we'd be today.